Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kenny Conversation, brought to you by JEGS, the leader in high-performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jegs.com, and they are telling me right now to tell you all they have Jeep parts, truck parts, and you can get all that at jegs.com. I'm really excited today, more so than normal, because you know my love for dirt racing. Dirt racing saved my life after NASCAR. And you are looking at the most influential man in dirt racing in history, the great Michael Rigsby. How you doing, Michael?
That is a hell of an introduction. I don't know how true or if it's true at all, but I appreciate it very much. And I'm doing great. You and I texted back and forth a little bit. I do a lot of podcasts, and I'm genuinely, truly honest when I say this. I am most excited about doing this one just because you talk about real shit, and I like that. So I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about real stuff today. So,
well, Michael, it does amaze me that people think that I'm bravado, and it's funny because I'm like, no, after the dirt races, when we drink beer, this is what we talk about. But you're saying it in real. Yeah, it's real. So let me start like this. You are the most influential person in dirt racing history. And here's why. You started Dirt on Dirt. Dirt on Dirt was your baby.
that's right.
Nobody could watch dirt racing. If they did, it was some little camera here or there. And it was like, we hear of Billy Moyer Jr., we hear of Bloomer, but my friend, it was you that put them on TV. My friend Kenny Schrader lives and did live on dirt.
Yeah.
So that is why you are the most influential person in dirt racing, because you put Billy Moyer and you put Bloomer, you put them on the map. So tell me your thoughts on my opinion, why I say you're the most influential person in dirt.
I appreciate that very much. That means a lot. And Schrader has been, I'm not going to pretend that Kenny and I are best friends, but we've developed a pretty good friendship over the years. And he has been one of the most supportive human beings since I started Dirt on Dirt back in 2007. To your point, I do think you're right about one thing. I think so. My background is broadcast journalism. I was a sports anchor up in Wisconsin, interviewing Matt Kenseth and covering the Wisconsin Badgers and the Green Bay Packers before I started Dirt on Dirt. And I would have been a dirt racing guy my entire life. Grew up 10 miles from Fairbury Speedway in Fairbury, Illinois, right? Every Saturday night of my life was spent at Fairbury. So I'm getting into journalism. I'm going through the process of becoming a journalist, and I'm a sports anchor. But I'm going to dirt races still, 50, 60 times a year, going to Eldora, going to Fairbury, going to Florence. And I spent so much time in the pits, and I'm like, these are the best personalities in the world. Not these pro athletes that I'm covering on Sundays in the NFL, or these college athletes that I'm covering on Saturdays. They're great, and there's amazing stories there. But I spent my entire life around dirt track racing while simultaneously elevating my career in broadcast journalism. And I'm kind of looking back at dirt track racing going, wait a minute, there's something here. There's something to this. And particularly if you know a guy like Scott Bloomquist, right, who is the most dynamic personality I've ever met in my life, pro athlete, Formula One, dirt track racing, NFL, it doesn't matter. So around 2006 is the internet. It sounds funny to say now, Kenny, the internet was really coming on in 2006.
Right, all the noise trying to get on it.
So around 2006, I thought, is there a way for me to marry my journalism skills with my love of dirt track racing because of the personalities and human interest stories that exist in this? My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, said, yeah, I'll follow you down this crazy road. Our first employee was Todd Turner, who is the greatest dirt track journalist of all time. He's still with us to this day. And the rest is kind of history from there. We thought there's something to this. There's something magical that people will fall in love with if we can show them these personalities and racetracks from all over the country every day. And it quickly took off. And 17 years later, here we are.
That's an incredible story. Let's talk about you for a little bit now. You've talked about the sport. So you're from Bloomington, Illinois, or as they say, Central Illinois.
That's right.
I think that's funny because in Nashville, they call it God's country. But in Illinois, it's Central Illinois. You're from Bloomington. but you went to work in Madison, Wisconsin for TV10. I have always thought when I listen to your voice, I could be working in the shop, and when I hear your voice, I turn my head. You have some good bass. You have an announcer's voice. Whether now is that your real voice?
My wife says that I turn it up a notch, and I'm just being honest. Just like I'm on your show, so I have to be honest.
Yeah.
My wife says it comes and goes, right?
Yeah.
She goes, you'll be talking to a barista at Starbucks, and for whatever reason, your voice that you'll turn it up voice will come out.
Yes, I'd like.
but by and I think it's my real voice, but I'm not going to pretend like when I sit down in this seat to host FloRacing Night in America. I always use the term, I clean my language up a little bit, right? I clean it up a little bit. So I think it's my real voice, but there's a twinge of turning it on a little bit, I think. So
100%. So you go to Madison, Wisconsin. Now, I was the keynote speaker for the Illinois Stock Car Hall of Fame, and I caught myself in the strangest dynamic. For the moment, I just could not make the difference between Illinois and Wisconsin. It's like at that state line, they just marry themselves. Do you find it that way?
It is. That part of Northern Illinois and into Wisconsin is really unique, and you don't really feel like you're getting into Wisconsin until you get to the Dells, right?
Yeah, right.
It kind of, Southern Wisconsin kind of feels like Northern Illinois. I will tell you this, Wisconsin people, they sort of have like and I love Wisconsin. My mom has lived in Wisconsin for 20 years, so I have many Wisconsin friends and family. They'll draw the distinction for you. Illinois people. The people from Illinois. They will let you know that you are not a Wisconsinite when you are up there. They feel very strongly about that, and I kind of appreciate it, honestly.
Yeah, my wife's family, my wife Kim, the complete family, the Sunshine family. We have a nun, Sister Sorella, in a convent in Minnesota. But they're all up in Milwaukee. I love Wisconsin the same as you. There's a church and a bar on every corner. We go to church, and boy, do we drink beer in Wisconsin. I want to go to your father. Your dad raced at Fairbury.
That's my grandfather, actually. It's my grandfather. Yeah, my grandfather. Yeah.
Thank you. So your grandfather raced at Fairbury. So now when I did my studying on you, I started connecting all these dots. I started going, oh, now I get it. This Fairbury phenomenon, Fairbury Speedway, is it because they get free help? Is it because everybody works for nothing? What is the phenomenon besides your grandfather racing there? What is the deal with? And I mean this nice now.
Yeah,
I don't.
Okay.
My face goes like this. It is like no other racetrack I've ever seen. I think Vermont Thunder Road maybe is like that, where it's a religion. What is the deal with Fairbury?
It is. So I live in Bloomington now. My original hometown is Colfax, Illinois. It's a tiny little town about as the crow flies, 12 miles from Fairbury. Fairbury it's been this way since it's opened in the 1940s, right? 1930s, 1940s. There is that town. And it's not, the town obsesses over the racetrack. Absolutely. The town obsesses over
it's a religion.
It is an absolute religion in the town of Fairbury, Illinois. And I think there's some magic in the size of Fairbury, Kenny, in the size of the racetrack. And what I mean by that is Fairbury's not Bloomington, where it's 160,000 people and there's a lot to do. Fairbury's 3,000 people. And it just so happens to have one of the best racetracks in the country. And there's not a lot to do in Fairbury. So you marry those two things together of the town that's not big with a racetrack that's phenomenal with generations of people. And it was the townspeople built the racetrack, right? And it meant something to them from the moment that racetrack was built all those years ago. And this doesn't happen everywhere, but that was passed down from generation to generation. Like my grandfather told my father, you will care about this, right? This is something that means a lot to, and I seriously have chills talking about it right now.
And I'm right there with you. I get it.
This is something that you will care about. This is something that our community has rallied around for 50, 60, 70 years. Because I cared about it, you will care about it. And that is something like when your fathers and your grandfathers tell you that look from your family. When they tell you something like that, you know that it means something. And that has now been passed down for nearly 100 years. Generation after generation after generation cares about how the racing is at the track, what the racetrack look like, is the painting done, is the mowing done. That is instilled DNA that you cannot recreate. You can't just open a track somewhere in Georgia or Tennessee and hope to create the DNA of 100 years. My uncle always used to say this is 100 years of giving a shit. That's what my uncle would say. It's 100 years of obsessing over this thing, caring about this thing, and above all else, wanting other people. And this is the secret sauce. When people come from out of town, wanting those people to love it as much as you love it. That is the secret sauce of Fairbury. You're from Norfolk, Virginia. I want you to love this like I love it. And that matters more than anything to me.
I love that explanation. I'm thinking to myself, I have Trent Francis, who's the owner of Crowley's Ridge in Paragould, Arkansas.
Cool track. Yep.
Yeah, I love it. It's fun. It's a throwback though. But Trent says when high school football starts, we shut down.
Yeah.
And they give way. It seems to me like it's the opposite at Fairbury. Now there might be high school football, but you get stronger at Fairbury. It's like all the way through the winter. It's like, oh, it's getting ready to snow. We need to stop. Am I right or am I wrong?
I mean, high school football at Prairie Central High School, I mean, it is a big deal. It's a big deal everywhere. But when the fall hits other places and racetrack, people dissociate themselves with the racetrack. We have, like you mentioned, right? We have a great group of volunteers. Our volunteers come out and go, what can we do?
Yeah, I love that.
How do we winterize? What needs painted? What needs mowed? What needs fixed? What needs, on any given week, and Matt Curl and I are part of the ownership group there. On any given weekend, if we said, hey, we need 200 volunteers, we'd have 200 volunteers. We'd probably have 300 volunteers if we needed them, right? And there's such a magic to that. And the people just obsess. Here's love, here's obsess. Our people are obsessed over the racetrack.
Yeah, let me know. Now, this is the joke. I need to know your business. So Matt Curl, and then all of a sudden here you came. What is your relationship now at Fairbury? I think 2 years ago, you're part of it.
Yeah, it was 20. Geez, COVID kind of made everybody lose track of time.
It's called COVID fog.
Sometimes I'll say that was 2 years ago, and they'll go, Rigsby, that was 5 years. 5 years ago already. I can't believe it.
Right.
I think it was 2019. There was Matt and I acquired the racetrack from the American Legion. So Matt and I,
you two own it now.
Yes, correct. Matt Curl.
Wow.
Yes.
That's big.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
And let me be very clear. It is Matt Curl's show. I am there for sage advice when Matt needs it, or streaming help, or I kind of a bigger idea guy about, Matt, what if we tried XYZ? But I believe this. I'm a little biased. Matt Curl is the best promoter in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Matt runs Fairbury. Everything Matt does is incredible at that racetrack. I'm part of the ownership group, but Matt is the man. Matt grew up 2 blocks from the racetrack.
Yeah.
Matt is the magic of Fairbury.
My opinion on promoters is very strong. Bob Sargent is a dear friend of mine. Bob is tall. He's tall and got a little, I call it girth. Dirt racers are god awful. It's in dirt, especially my division, the modifieds. They're god awful. I call them out all the time. Modified racers, they're mad all the time because they want to be super late model,
right?
And everything is about them, and they just complain 24/7.
Yeah.
But I love the division. I love it.
Yeah.
It seems like Matt and Bob Sargent, they stand above these mod guys, and they're like, don't. And they don't. I'm telling you, I'm the king dirt racer. I run 80 dirt races a year, and I just brought it back to 40. But when I go to Matt Curl's drivers meeting, everybody shuts their mouth.
Yeah, Matt's got a little bit of young Earl Baltus to him. In the fact that he's at a young age commands an immense amount of respect. And part of that is just doing stuff the right way. He always treats everyone fairly, always tries to do things the right way. And if he screws something up, he will come right to your pit area and say, Kenny, I screwed up. And he will do that. And I think you guys respect that, which is why he's become so good.
Yeah, when there's a mod drivers meeting at Fairbury, they talk and we leave. All the other ones like, well, my hauler or my car, or when I spun out, you
right.
Jeez, calm down. Okay. So speaking of Fairbury, Flow Night in America was your baby.
Mhm.
Tell me about Flow Night. First of all, I like it. I think it's awesome. I like what you're doing with it. I
Yeah.
do understand it. Is it coming back? I haven't seen anything.
Yep.
Tell me about 2024 and Flow Night in America.
Yeah, so I've always had the idea, even like early Dirt on Dirt days, to have a midweek racing series. And I'm not the first person to think of this, right? Thursday Night Thunder on ESPN with
You
USAC
have
back in the
TV.
day. Yeah, right. I'm not the first. If people go, "Hey, man, that was a great concept," I'm like, "Well, thanks. I'm not the first person to do this." But no one ever had really done it at the really the grassroots level. So when COVID hit, we were the first ones to bring back dirt late model racing at Ray Cook's track, and I will always be indebted to Ray Cook. We were the first dirt late model race back in America after COVID, and we did a studio show that night because we have my studio here. Me and D Swab, Derek Kessinger, we host a Flow
You're in
Racing Night in
Bloomington
America.
right now? Are you
Yeah,
in Bloomington?
I'm in Bloomington. Yes, sir.
Got it.
So it was, and we did it that night to massive viewership, and it was like, whoa, my idea is right here. A midweek racing series could work. So we, with the help of the amazing Ben Shelton, who is the general manager of our series, and Ben's one of my best friends, put together a 10 to 12 race schedule, which will return this year. Our first race is at Spoon River coming up on May 8th, Wednesday, May 8th. 10 to 12 race schedule, $75,000 to win the championship. I think it's $1,200 or $1,500 to start these events this year. Just a cool series that's separate of the other series, right? You can run Lucas or you can run the Outlaws, but you can also run this and run both those, a chance to make more midweek money. And we have fun with it, right? We have an hour-long pre-race show in the studio. We've got gambling segments we do. Derek's giving me shit about everything. I'm teasing him about loving Kevin Weaver, right? We're constantly, it's a studio presence that does not exist anywhere else in dirt track racing. It really feels unique in the space. And that's what I love about it. It's different than any other programming in dirt track racing. It feels, I hate to say it this way, but it feels bigger than dirt track racing. This is stuff you'd see in Major League Baseball or the NFL or places like that.
Speaking of Kevin Weaver, so when Major League Baseball had COVID, they made these and they put me in a seat at Busch Stadium. It's authentized. Back to Fairbury for a minute.
Yeah.
This is just a coincidence, everybody. Please forgive me. So these are big at Fairbury.
Yeah, the fatheads. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the other legend that, kind of adds to Fairbury, right? Did it start there at Fairbury?
Yeah, it did. Fairbury is the first place to do it. We love all of us. I think one cool thing about Fairbury, a lot of sports fans, racing and sports marries each other, right? Tons of college sports fans in Fairbury. We love college game day. You see those at college game day, people holding them up on Saturday mornings for college football. And we're like, wouldn't it be kind of cool to marry that and bring it to Fairbury? So you've been on the bus before doing the pre-race show on the bus. It's rowdy. People are holding up giant fat heads of people. It's just unlike any other place in that way.
It really is. Okay, so you are in a vulnerable spot. So I'm going to throw one dart at you.
Hit me.
I did with Brian Carter in the tower drama. We're not going to talk about tower drama right now. I do want your opinion on it.
Sure.
So I'm going to say what all the racers say. I'm going to imitate right now instead of asking the question. Okay. Well, that Flow Night in the middle of the season, in the middle of the week, it don't even need people in the grandstands because Flow's got so much money. We don't need people in the grandstands. That is the biggest phenomenon thought that needs to be de-bullshitted.
Yeah.
So Flow Racing. No, I'm still acting, okay?
Okay, I gotcha.
Flow Racing has billions and trillions of dollars, and they don't need people in the grandstands because it's made for TV. Now, you can go in percentages here. It does not need to be one or the other. How true is that?
Very not true. And especially as someone who is an owner of Fairbury and hosts an event, we very much like people in the stands at FloRacing Night in America. I think that's why I've got I'm a unique perspective because I'm a track owner and I'm in the streaming business, right?
Yeah.
So without question, when we conceptualize FloRacing Night in America, and obviously we don't just do midweek shows, right? We have Lucas Oil is on our platform. We have a lot of promoters and stuff we work with. But when we conceptualize FloRacing Night in America, we knew on a Tuesday or Wednesday, Bob Sargent or Ray Cook or Lernerville Speedway, you're not going to get as big a crowd on a Tuesday as you are a Saturday. We know that. So we compensated them what we think is very fairly on what we would call a rights fee. So in our rights contracts all work a little bit differently, whether it's with the series or with a racetrack. But we said, hey, we know Tuesday night, you hope to have 12, 13, 1,400 people in the stands. Because of that, we will pay you a little higher rights fee in order to have the event, right? And to date, virtually every race on our calendar wants to come back every year, right? Every promoter goes, hey, we had a good event. We had enough people in the stands that we had a good event. We'd like to do it again next year. So the fallacy that we don't want people, I never want to do this without people. Dirt track racing is fans in the stands. I don't ever want to do that without people. COVID sucked when we had to do that. I don't want to do that again. So the idea that we don't want to do it without people is just lunacy. And it's also not true. I probably have this a little wrong. On average, I'd say attendance at a FloRacing Night in America event with pits and grandstand both, 1,800 to 2,000, 1,700 to 2,000 people. So on a Tuesday night with the rights fee we're paying these folks, they can really have a nice night. So
Yeah.
I feel like I debunked that piece at least.
Yeah. And I appreciate you doing that. I think part of Kenny conversation is what you said at the start. We
Yeah.
de-bullshit some things. You're nice. You say debunk. So dirt racing today.
Yeah.
Okay. We still have a little bit more to talk about.
Tons. Yeah.
Yeah. Dirt racing today with the, I'm hearing these things like that I don't like. I'm hearing these things, arrow push.
Yeah.
It's hard to pass in heat races. Droop rule. Shocks are $20,000. Cars are one. Let's go to Mark Richards. Let's buy a turnkey rocket car, which you can now.
Yeah.
$130,000. With everything I just said, what are your thoughts?
That's open-ended, but I like it being open-ended. I say this about dirt racing right now. What an interesting time. And the fact that I believe it is more popular than ever. And I believe it's maybe at its one of its more dangerous points cost-wise than ever.
Agreed.
So that's kind of a dangerous position, right? In there. On one hand, and I think the Kyle Larson effect in 2020 had a lot to do with this, right? He comes back and barnstorms the country and sort of unites NASCAR and dirt track fans, and that was big. Streaming platforms make dirt track racing more accessible than ever. The audiences are great. But at the same time, the cost of doing this is disproportionate right now. I will say purses are getting better without question. There's more money for these guys to make than they've ever made before. That's good. I don't pretend you know far more about. I know enough about the mechanics of a race car to be just dangerous enough. Jason Fager always tells me you're just dumb enough to be dumb enough. Is what he tells me.
That's good though.
Yeah, right.
That's good.
And I don't pretend to know everything about the mechanics of a race car, and I don't want to say that. But it's clear what worries me the most, Kenny, is the car owners right now, because racers who race on percentage are doing pretty good because of the more money. But I'm not trying to pretend that racers are getting rich. But t-shirt sales are better than ever, right? Purses are better than ever. So the racers are kind of coming up a little bit. I worry about the car owners right now. Car owners who, let's face it, millionaire hobbyists, a lot of them, right? And I say that as a compliment.
All of them.
Yeah. Guys who have built incredibly successful businesses away from this, who don't mind losing a couple $100,000 at the racetrack. But when they start getting into losing $500,000, $600,000 at the racetrack, which some of our dirt late model team owners are now, and sprint car team owners are now, and asphalt team owners are now, that's when you cross the Rubicon and go into how much longer can, I'm just using him as an example. He's not a guy I know his money, but David Wells, who owns Brandon Overton's car. David's one of the best humans on the planet. How long is David going to be willing to do that? That's what we've got to figure out. But don't you feel like that conversation's been being had for how long have you been in racing now? It costs too much. Do you, in your opinion, is it truly now cost too much? Is it there?
And I do want to talk with you about this just a little bit back and forth. So I've always told people, and I created controversy last year by saying you can't make money running dirt cars. And they're like, yeah, I can. So I had a conversation with Brad Sweet, and he said, no, Kenny, you're right. It was just hard for us to hear.
Yeah.
Maybe the top 3 in the world of outlaw sprint cars could make a little money. They got big sponsors like Napa.
Yeah.
The only way you make money in dirt racing is you have a sugar daddy. Okay. And like you just said, okay. My dear friend, Nick Hoffman, he don't own none of that.
Yep.
He don't own none of it,
Yep.
but he is the greatest for his owner because Nick saves his owner so much money because Nick can do everything.
Yep. That's right.
Nick can do 5 man's work.
Yep.
So everybody that races in dirt super late model racing, the only way they make money is to have a car owner that will do like you just said.
Yeah.
Good point. Wasn't even a subject really of mine. I just wanted to know your opinion.
Yeah, and it's kind of makes me sad because we are absolutely more popular than ever, right? Like when the Jeff Glucks and those guys of the world are tweeting about dirt track racing every Saturday night, right? And Kenny Wallace, and not that you don't love dirt racing, but you're so invested in it. Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet have their own new series, which is on Flow with High Limit. There's this tornado of popularity about dirt track racing, but over here in the corner, it's like, holy shit, this costs too much. This is a problem. And I don't have the fix for that. But I know that I'm hearing it more and more every week. Costs too much, and that's on my brain that we need to fix in the next 18 months. It really is.
What series will it be, Michael, that finally has the balls big enough to put them off the dashboard? Whether it's Lucas Oil, whether it's World of Outlaw. Now, listen, I'm not an idiot. Okay, I know Lucas Oil is on Flow. And I know World of Outlaws is over on Dirt Vision.
Yeah.
But you and I love it all.
I do.
What series is going to have enough balls to go, guys? Call up Penske, call up Bilstein. Look, you got to get your shocks at this. This is so. Listen, I love everything, but my checkbooks are right next to me right now. Here it is. That's the one. Okay. That's Kenny Wallace Racing Incorporated.
Yeah.
I have 2 checkbooks, and that's Kenny and Kim. That's me and my wife.
That one's Kim Incorporated. That
true.
one is.
Kim gets whatever she wants.
That's right.
I pay all my own bills. I know everything.
Yeah.
So I don't even need anybody to tell me anything because I know it all myself.
Yeah.
Because I own my own deal, and I ran a super late model right there. I know.
Yeah.
So who's going to do it? Who's going to be the ones that go, okay, here's the deal. Okay, shocks, here's the deal. Okay, why are our noses 10 feet wide? Arrow push. I thought you guys made fun of NASCAR for that.
Yeah.
Now you got an arrow push.
10-second aside on that. I'm with you. I get along with everybody. Like Brian Carter's a pretty good friend of mine. Brian Dunlap at World Racing Group. I've worked with Dirt Vision. I get along great with them. I watch Dirt Vision all the time, right? And I'm a Flow general manager, and I love them. So I think there's only one answer to that, and it's got to be both. It's got to be everybody. It doesn't matter in our sport, late model racing particularly, and sprint car racing. I think the way sprint car bodies and everything works a little bit different, right? There's not as much engineering to a sprint car as there is a dirt late model. It has to be both. And I know Rick Schwally and Steve Francis continue to work together, the 2 series directors. If they both don't do it, and we'd fall right in line with FloRacing Night in America, whatever those 2 told us we'd do, has to be both. If it's not both and they both can't do it, it doesn't really matter. They both have to do it together, candidly. They have to.
Yeah, Kenny Schrader, some strange man walked up to Schrader, I think maybe Springfield, Missouri, Jerry Hoffman's track.
Yeah.
And did a little 30-second video that was so profound.
Yeah.
The man asked Schrader, tell me about dirt racing today. And he says, basically we spit a series out like the B mods or what the A mods used to be. And now we keep adding more parts onto these cars. And Nick Hoffman tells me, he says, I make more money when I can keep selling more parts to put on the car because welding is gone nowadays. Nobody even knows how to weld. They just bolt the clamp on the car, which is fine.
Yeah.
But Schrader, I would say to him, oh, the sport costs a lot of money. And here's the point I'm getting to. He says, same story, different year. but it seems like it's way, way out of more proportion than it's ever been.
I think we've tipped the scale on professionalism in the sport is why. And what I mean by that is there are, you say you can't make any money. I think team owners definitely can't make any money. But, there are drivers now, and God bless them because they're talented guys. These are the athletes. These are the show. I'm glad they're making money. They can. Drivers are doing pretty well now. Through merchandise sales is bigger than ever. Purses are bigger than ever. So once to me, you tip that scale and these guys really become dyed in the wool professional athlete. Because, back in the day, like Billy Moyer raced for a living, but Billy Moyer was doing other things also, right? And him and Scott were kind of the first two professional dirt late model drivers. These guys are professional drivers now. And once you do something for a profession, all the things you just talked about with Nick Hoffman and Schrader, that becomes part of it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying, okay, you want that part. Now you're going to have this part. Every nuance, an inch and quarter inch and square inch that these guys can get to get an advantage. Why? Because they're professionals. They're just like athletes who train and train and train. It's the same thing. And I think we've become so professionalized now, sort of under our noses without even noticing it. Oh yeah, this is a professional sport. All that stuff you talked about comes along with it.
One more dart. I wasn't going to throw another one.
That's it. Hit me with it.
Okay. Local racing is dead. Shouldn't even have it anymore. But by God, Eldora, the World Finals at Charlotte, Knoxville Nationals. So local dirt racing's gone. 600 people in the grandstands. Why are people doing it? And Lincoln, Illinois, Bob Sargent every other week now. Jacksonville, Illinois, every other week now. Kevin and Tammy, they're getting tired, whenever they want to race. And listen, they're my family.
Yeah.
We just race whenever Kevin and Tammy want to. They mean well. Thank God that Josh Carroll has brought back, Brownstown, Illinois, the bull ring. Great schedule. So we're seeing this new phenomenon where local racing is racing. And then we see this track down here, down south that, we're packed every week. But for the most part, that's the subject. What do you say about local racing's dead? Big shows are bigger than ever.
Yeah, and I've got interesting perspective on that Fairbury still races 22 Saturday nights a year, right? We start and we don't stop. And I'm not going to pretend it's not tougher than it was 5 or 6 years ago. I think that's I think it's twofold. I think one, I feel like I'm such a cliche when I say this, but the amount of stuff people have to do now is insane. I'm joking to say, so I get my phone out right here, my gorgeous wife, my gorgeous wife, right? We were talking about this morning. She told me to say, she goes, I like that Kenny Wallace. Tell him I said hello, Amber.
Tell her I love her.
And our calendar now through November booked. I bet you're the same way, right?
Same way, yes.
Not just racing stuff, weddings, birthday parties, baby showers, da-da-da. I feel like when I was a kid, and I'm 42 years old, my dad said once every 6 weeks, we got something on a weekend, right? The amount of stuff human beings are doing now, mainly because of this, because you can stay connected with this and constantly do things with this. There's just a ton of things to do and that people are doing. So when you have that dichotomy, you're only going to you're going to cut off the bottom stuff, right? And in this case, the bottom stuff is local and weekly racing. It is. Yeah. You marry that with the cost of local and weekly racing is high. So less local and weekly racers, less people who want to attend local and weekly racing. Fans now go, we're going to level up one level and we're not going to go to this. Less guys to see, less time to go do it. We're just going to level up. We're just going to level up. So now the big shows become gigantic. Prairie Dirt Classic, World 100, World Finals, Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals. They are huge, bigger than they've ever been.
And I just want to comment on this a little bit. My dream in life, because I went to ASA right away, 1986. I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but my brother Rusty helped me with a shortcut. Not financially whatsoever. That was all me. Well, my old eyebrows got real protective right there, but it's just true. I went to the big time right away. I went ASA and I went to the Busch Series, NASCAR, and I never did any local racing. So myself and Dale Jr., he said, man, when I'm done, I'm going to go late model stock racing. And he is. And I said, I'm going to go run every week at Peevely.
Yeah.
And I did. And I won the championship and I ran really good. But what was shocked to me was that locals really don't run for championships anymore. They'll say silly things like, me and my family are going to Six Flags this weekend. And I'm like, what in the world? My family
in points, right? Yeah.
my family, my dad, Russ Wallace, and my mom, Judy, she won powder puff races. We never took a weekend off.
Yeah.
The winters were too long. What is your thoughts on what you just said? I mean, people, they'll be leading the points, right?
Yeah.
We're going to the lake this week. And I'm like, no, you race this week. That dynamic has changed,
I
hasn't
think
it?
there's I love people who obsess over things. I love
I,
it. It's like one of my favorite. It's like one of my favorite things is people who like pick something out. You and I don't really have like we were just born into obsessing over this, right?
Mhm.
So the idea that someone so like let's take a step back. Take a step back, and if you view that person who's going to Six Flags might not be my choice, but hey, they're going to Six Flags.
They're going.
There is something like there's something beautiful about them having the ability. I could never do it, but there's something beautiful about them having the ability to like prioritize life over motorsports a little bit. And
Wow.
I'm self-aware. I know, seems nuts, right? But I'm self-aware enough to go like I actually kind of appreciate that. It's not a life I would choose to live, but this person is saying I have a wife and a family and a life, and racing is not everything to me, and I'm going to go do this and disrupt this season points thing or whatever. Where you and me, they might as well be alien foreign beings speaking that to me and you, like, what in the hell are you talking about? But the older I get, I can appreciate it. I
Yeah.
can. And it's not something Kenny Wallace or Michael Rigsby would do, but I can look at it and go, I don't know. There is some sort of beauty, twisted, weird beauty, but but
R-
beauty to it, you
Yeah.
know?
Ray Bollinger is the most obsessed. I mean,
Yep.
I think he's more obsessed than Schrader.
Yeah.
Bollinger now, Ray, as you watch this, or Ray Bollinger's friends will tell him. But maybe 10 years ago, Ray said he missed his son's graduation because he had to run
Yeah.
Lincoln or Fairbury, and I understand it. I had to make peace
Yeah.
with my family because thank God for my awesome wife. I've been with my wife since we were children. She was 15, I was 16. We met each other. My wife raised my kids because racing became my life.
Yeah.
Later on in my life, uh, I said to my oldest daughter, I said, Brooke, mom says you hate NASCAR. Dad, I hate NASCAR because I saw what it did to you. It tore you apart, competition wise. And then Brooke said, I don't want you to quit racing, Dad. I want you. She said this last year. She said, I don't want you to quit racing. I just want you to remember that we have your grandchildren's birthdays, and I don't want you rolling down the driveway
Yeah.
because I did it.
Right.
So yeah,
my career same way, right? When you're building a company, it was every friends' weddings. I mean, it was just like at the beginning of the year, my wife and I would just buy 10 cards for weddings and graduations, knowing we weren't going to any of them.
We're going to Fairbury.
We're not going to any of these.
Man.
We'll be at Florence or Dixie or West Virginia Motor. I'm glad I don't know if you're. I do have a question for you about NASCAR. I don't know if you're done with me yet, but I want to hit you with one too.
Well, no. Listen, I respect you immensely. Interview me. Ask me. I mean, I want to talk to you about Pierce.
You keep going.
No. I want you to keep your question. Remember, I want to talk to you about Pierce.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about High Limit.
Yep.
And I want to talk to you about my controversy that I said it looked to me like the World of Outlaws was stronger this year. But ask me your question first.
All right, we'll start because I do want to talk about Bobby because Bobby to me is like the most fascinating dirt late model driver since Scott Bloomquist.
I have a lot to say.
Yeah, and I have an opinion on the tire thing too, so I'm happy to talk about that. Yeah. You brought up NASCAR. Yeah. We have, of course, at Flow now, we have the grassroots NASCAR contract, right? We have anything that's below trucks, basically, so to speak, we have, right? From wheel and modified tour to all that stuff. You got you got that on there?
Is NASCAR part of FloRacing now?
It is.
Okay, so there we go.
Yeah, and we've got more news coming soon on our short track pavement offerings as well. And one thing that I love, before I get to my NASCAR question, 30 seconds, what I love is we're starting to see is I'm making these short track pavement fans, dirt fans. These dirt fans are becoming short track pavement fans. When I sold Dirt on Dirt to Flow, Mark Floriani, the CEO of Flow, sat in my kitchen, which is right above me, and him and I talked about, he said, what do you want to do? I said, my dream is to make it one motorsports fan, not 10. I want pavement fans to love drag to love dirt. And we're doing that, and we're seeing it. That audience is crossing over like crazy right now, which is super exciting. We've got some awesome stuff planned for the next year to really hype that up. But my question for you on NASCAR is I watch every friggin' Twitter video you do. I watch, whether it's Kenny Coffee with Kenny Conversations, I watch them all, right? And you talk so much about NASCAR. I have an opinion on, you asked me a lot about the problems with dirt track racing. I have an opinion on what I see as an issue with NASCAR. I think it's the only professional American sport that is not a meritocracy. And what I mean by that, it's a big word, I know, for all the viewers out there. It's a big word for me. I learned it recently. A meritocracy meaning it's not totally merit based. When I'm watching the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball, I know these are the best baseball, football, and basketball players in the world without question. You can't start at middle linebacker for the Chicago Bears if you're not, you've earned your way there. I believe that NASCAR has lost that. I think I had someone that you and I respect very much in the NASCAR world, we both know and love, tell me that half the field are those dudes. They're incredible. The other half, Michael, you might be right. They may not be the best drivers in the world. I think the fans are smart enough to know that and pick up on that and go, man, that guy's, he sort of was interconnected and was able to get his ride and brought. And to me, I just think that's a fault. It's the only professional American sport that exists in that way, where you don't know if you're watching the best. Tell me if I'm right or wrong about that.
I'll meet you halfway. 50-50 for sure. So my mama taught me this. Don't insult my intelligence. So I agree with you. Okay. Yeah. We cannot insult NASCAR fans' intelligence. Right. Okay. Dirt racing fans absolutely did love. Now I say that past tense.
Yeah.
They loved NASCAR. I mean, we would, Bruce Patron, we do these Race of Champions deals. Bob Sargent and Schrader, they were teamed up. We would do NASCAR nights. And I'm telling you, if we did a NASCAR night 20 years ago, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Dirt racing fans worshiped NASCAR.
Yeah.
What pissed the dirt racing fans off is NASCAR started getting greedy. Yeah. They said, okay, we're going to Texas. And the dirt fans are like, hey, man, listen, I'm not insulting dirt racing fans, but they're like, we got $60. We got $60. We want to go to Sunday's Cup race.
Yeah.
And Texas Motor Speedway said, no.
Yeah.
You got to buy the truck ticket, the Xfinity ticket. And then the hotel rooms are $300. And now everybody became angry because they didn't have enough money to go to a NASCAR race. Now they're mad. Then they go, well, look at this guy over here. Who is that? And I can name names all day long. They brought money to get in the seat.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you're right, 100% right. But here's where the problem lies. Junior Motorsports, that's all Rick Hendrick. Rick Hendrick owns those cars, owns those motors to keep Junior Motorsports doing something. It's a really, and there's Kelly but all those cars, that's all Rick Hendrick stuff. So you go, okay, Justin Allgaier, you cannot race. And then all of a sudden Justin goes, I got Brandt money.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Kelly's like, okay, we'll let you drive the car.
Right.
Now I just acted it out for you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Joe and Bob and Dan, they're not fired.
Yeah.
So as soon as we make fun of the people that bring the money, it's like, okay, they're out of the ride. Well, let's put a guy in here that has no money, but he's talented. Well, he ain't got no money.
Yeah.
So then the team shuts down. So I know all these things. And the people at Fox Sports said, Kenny, you're too jaded. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, you know too much.
Yeah.
You tell too much truth. You got to let some of it, it's like I said this. Alcatraz prison, the Birdman of Alcatraz.
Yeah, Birdman.
The man had one bird.
Yep.
But by the time it got going, he had 100 birds. Same thing with NASCAR.
And you brought up Bobby Pierce. And the reason I feel so passionate about this is when I spend my life watching, whether it's Bubba Pollard in the asphalt late model side, or Bobby Pierce, or Brad Sweet, or Corey Day, who is the next great American sprint car superstar. I believe in my heart, and I'm going to stake my flag, those guys are better than a lot of the guys listen, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, those guys are good. They're good at anything, anytime. Those guys, we know who the studs are, right? Tyler Reddick, I believe, is good anytime, anywhere. But when I watch Bobby and Corey Day, I go, son of a bitch, these guys are as good as these guys. And that bothers me. And that's not like a knock on the guys in NASCAR as much as it is me identifying talent and going, if this was the NFL, there'd be a New England Patriots scout in some small town in Minnesota watching some kid run the 40-yard dash going, I'm going to take this kid from Minnesota and he's going to play for the Patriots. That dream is hard to accomplish in the highest level of American motorsports. And that makes me sad. And it makes me sad.
So I agree with you. And psychologically,
Yeah.
what I hear from you, and this is a positive, what I hear from you, I'm going to put it in a mean way. You want Bobby Pierce gone from dirt racing and you want him in NASCAR. So when we want these people to move on, remember, we're going to lose them.
Yeah.
And there'll be another one to come. I'm with you.
It's not as much as I want them gone and in NASCAR. I kind of want the world to identify, and you can say whatever you want about Chaz. Chaz Thompson's been talking about this topic for a long time, and I said the same thing to him. I said, I agree with you. I just want somebody to go, Bobby Pierce is as good as driver XYZ on Sunday. That's all I need. That's all I need to hear.
You brought up Chaz, and Chaz is going to watch this because people are going to tell him.
Yeah.
Chaz could be better, but he's so damn mean about it. It's like I can tell you to, I can be mean to you, but I can give you some respect.
Sure.
Chaz could have way bigger numbers. And me and Chaz have talked about this before. Chaz wants me to be part of him. I said, Chaz, you're so mean. I said, Jesus. I mean, Chaz hates me, but he doesn't. That was part of his act.
Yeah.
He said his part of his act was to hate me to get bigger numbers. I mean, no, you can't hate Kenny Wallace because I was in NASCAR. That's so stupid.
And he's got genuinely, some of his perspectives are very good on motorsports. Yes. I'm with you. Let's flush them out. Let's hear them.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Yeah. It's just don't be so damn mean. So it was Kyle Steffens that had to sit Chaz down and go, Chaz, you don't understand. Herman gave me money and pit passes and to go to, I give everybody money, Michael. Yeah. Everybody. I mean, I can take pictures I give Bobby Pierce $2,500. I give Billy Smith $10,000. I write a flock of money coming out my ass. I give everybody as much money as I can give them.
Yeah.
Chaz should call me and say, I didn't know all this about you, Kenny. I'm like, you're so busy being mean that you're blinded.
Well, I think he discovered with me too. I think he thought like, oh, who is this FloRacing guy? Then he looked into my backstory and he was like, oh shit, this guy rode around in a minivan for a year, built a company from nothing. Like, oh, okay, I kind of like this guy. Similar to you, same story, right? Like you've done this. We're grassroots guys.
I built my own race cars,
right?
Bend the tubing. Well, then I made it to NASCAR,
right?
I always say people, all that the generation gap. Now here I am talking about me because we both are talking about each other.
Yeah.
And Chaz, this segment is about you. Just, I said what I said just now, but, listen, you and I have done too much when we were children to be disrespected because, ask my brother Rusty, ask my brother Mike, ask Donnie Jumper with Impressive Race Cars. Mm-hmm. So anyway, all right. So
that was my NASCAR question. Now hit me. That was my NASCAR question. So.
Okay. So let's go to Bobby Pierce.
Yeah.
And always my disclaimer. That way, nobody can pop in on the backside and go, "Arr." Remember my disclaimer. Angie Pierce calls me up. We talk for 40 minutes. Me and Angie. Okay.
I love her to death. I love her to death.
I call Angie. I say, Angie, I need to send Bobby some money because he's looking for a sponsor. What's his address? Bob's too busy being a man. Bobby's too young. So we got this weird dynamic. We got this Pierce family that they live, eat, and breathe. If Bobby doesn't win, there's this vision out there that the Pierces are going to be poor.
Yeah.
Right? Now, we all know this, and they're watching right now. So Bob and Angie have Bobby. Bobby, you're going to drive this race car. If you don't win, that is about the only team we see out there just like, rah,
yeah.
So now they say your tires don't meet the benchmark. Mm-hmm. Angie is devastated because, she's defending her son. Mm-hmm. My boy's tires are not illegal, damn it. They messed up. And I said, Angie, are you saying Brian Carter's out to get your son? No, yeah. But Blue Ridge just messed up. But I like the lady at Blue Ridge, but she's in a basement. And so I'm telling you all the truth. Okay. We love Bobby Pierce. He's also loved to be hated for
Yeah.
the early days of dirty sliders.
Yep.
But he had to do that dirty slider or else they don't make no money. I understand this whole damn dynamic. And his sponsor called me, Gary St. Cyr, said, hey, I want to sponsor Bobby Pierce. I said, yes, I've given money to Bobby and I support them. All right. Now, I painted the whole damn picture. Go ahead about the tire drama.
I will start here. So another business venture that I have is I'm half owner of the Wild West Shootout in New Mexico. So Chris Kearns and I own that event together.
And Bobby's family's out there.
Bobby's family's always out there, and I love the Pierce family dearly, like you do.
Our disclaimer:
those 45-minute conversations with Angie, I've had many of them with Bob. Bob was my dad's hero growing up. My dad loved Bob, that big bush across the front of his car, right?
That man helped me.
Loved him. So the reason I bring up the Wild West Shootout is this, and I'm getting to the tire stuff. So Bobby runs incredibly well every year at the Wild West Shootout. We test tires at the Wild West Shootout every single year. Bobby's tires this year and every other year have come back correct from the Wild West Shootout. The reason I bring that up is there is a $300,000 bonus to be won at the Wild West Shootout if you win all 6 races. There's a $100,000 bonus to be won if you win 5 races. Bobby was on the precipice of winning 5 races this year. He ended up wrecking and didn't get there. I say all that to say his tires come back clean. And if one was going to cheat, it might make sense that he would try to cheat during that event, right? With a 300 that pays more than the World of Outlaws Championship.
Non-sanctioned event.
Bingo, right?
Let's cheat now.
That one might do that. And again, I am not an expert on tire dope. I am not pretending I know all the new stuff that's out there or any of that. What I will say is when I'm giving you my perspective, I tell you about the Wild West Shootout. When I talk to them, Devin, Bobby, those guys, genuinely, I believe them. I do. All I can do is sit in my seat and say, I believe them that they did not do this. There are people that are going to hear me say this and say, you're a naive idiot, Rigsby. How stupid do you think you are? All I can do is judge a man and a person and a family, whether it's the Morans or Pierces, whoever, on their character, my experiences with them, and what they've told me. I don't believe that they knowingly treated their tires. Now, I also think Brian Carter is an honorable and noble man. I believe that Brian Carter believes what he and Steve, the process they've gone through and everything they've done. So if they think they're correct, and I believe Bobby, somewhere out there, this result has manufactured itself. And I don't know. I'm not even saying it's a lab problem. I believe there's something that we don't know. I believe there's something that we don't understand or know. And again, whether it's Kim from Blue Ridge, who I've been told is an incredibly nice woman, or Brian Carter, someone's going to watch this and go, you're an idiot. You're an idiot for saying this. You're naive. But when I look at the body of evidence, it doesn't support the idea that they would have knowingly cheated these tires. It just doesn't. From where I sit, particularly as an owner of the Wild West Shootout, it doesn't make sense that they would do it here and not here, this one select night here and not here. I just don't find that to be a logical conclusion to the story, right? And this is probably about as publicly as I've spoken about it. I've been a little guarded before, but that's just how I feel. If 6 years from now it came out like the Zapruder tape and the Kennedy assassination, that there's a picture of Devin Moran treating a tire, sure, I would accept that. Devin, I'm just using you as an example. But that's how I feel about it. My honest opinion is, logically, it doesn't make a lot of sense. This guy knows it could submarine his entire season. This guy didn't do it in New Mexico with a $300,000 bonus on the line. 120 of his tires have been taken over the course of the last 365 days, all of which came back clean. It just doesn't logically make a lot of sense that on this one night, in this one instance, in this one place, that they would elect to do this. So that's my position on it. That's no disrespect to Brian and Steve. That's no disrespect to the folks at the Blue Ridge Lab, because I think they're all honorable and noble. I really believe that. Brian Carter cares about short track racing. I believe that he does. You think Brian Carter wanted to suspend Bobby Pierce? Hell no. That only hurts him. He doesn't want to do that, right? So I think everybody has noble intentions. There's just something we're not understanding in this process, or there's something we're missing. And that's about as honest of a take as I can possibly give on it.
Now I want to go, because it's been long enough. So I interviewed Brian Carter two times neutrally.
Yeah.
So I was given on the backside, ask him this, ask him that,
Yeah.
ask him this. I'm like, I got it.
Sure.
So I throw 22 darts at Brian Carter. And of course, when the interview's over, there were, my friends.
Yeah.
Well, he answered it wrong. You should ask him. I said, I asked him everything you asked me to ask him.
Yeah.
But the interview didn't go in their favor. So here's after all these weeks, months, I'm going to tell you what I think.
Sure.
Remember I talked about being jaded when you know
Yeah.
too much?
Yeah.
So I know everything like you do. And I'm going to pick the one that kind of will create more controversy. And it's this one. Years ago, so-and-so bought 4 tires.
Mhm.
And he soaked them, but didn't think it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they weren't the right circumference. They were not the right size. He soaked them. And then when they were mounted, he couldn't use them. So they're cheap. They're going to go to Hoosier. Look, they got the tits on them. We haven't even mounted them. Okay. Gave them back to Hoosier. Got 4 more. There is this theory that is true, 110% true, that people are soaking their tires and then trading them in, and they're getting mixed into the Hoosier trailer.
Yeah.
Now, whether that happened or not, I'll go with that one.
Yeah.
Because of everything. So I'm going to go with that one because that one's the real one I heard. That really happened. So now I know that. So now that cannot even, that's de-bullshitted. That happened.
Yeah. And I think when I'm looking for the something we're missing, I keep saying that is a possible something we're missing kind of thing. Am I saying that happened here? I don't know, but we have evidence and we know that happened. So it just seems, I like that they backed the penalties off. I like that they did those things. In my mind, they did it because they even realized maybe, what are we missing here? Are we missing something? To your point, right? Something like this happening. Bobby comes right back out on the Outlaws and kicks their ass at Farmer City and he's right back in the hunt. So I also don't think, and it's hard to tell these guys this, I'm going to say this and then let me put the brakes on. I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. And what I mean by it is don't cheat tires. That is, don't do that. Don't cheat. But what I mean is, even if they didn't do it and I don't think people look at it, Kenny, like they did in 2004 or 2005. Quickly, people will get over this, right? Easy for me to say, and Angie Pierce is going, I got to deal with my sponsors, and she's right, and that's not great.
Well,
but I think people move past it.
Yeah. So let's end this like this. And you can have the last word on, but I want to say this. It's 110% true that there are hundreds of people soaking their tires. I know them. I know the people.
Yeah.
And the tire soaking industry, they're selling product that's flying out the window. So here, let me act again. I'm going to act. Nobody's soaking their tires. What about this picture of these people buying the tire softener?
Yeah.
What about this picture of the people, now there's evidence. It's like we all know there are people out there selling it all day long, right? I mean, I know my locals that soak it, and I just laugh. I'm like, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
So we know it's happening all day long, and I think that's the issue. Is these divisions like Lucas Oil and World Outlaws are like, these son of a bitches are selling it right in front of our face. Oh, there he is. He's in the pit area here at Volusia. There's the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, Michael, is that they're selling it right in front of their face to their, they're in their pit area because everybody knows everybody.
What'd you say earlier? It started with 100 birds or one bird and went to 100.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything in my life like a dirt track pit area when I can start at one end. By the time I walk to the other end, how the rumor has moved past me and escalated. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Right. So that's why you're right. I know there's guys soaking tire, but you never know. Like I walked into, Volusia, you go through that pit gate first there. Mark Richards, they're all right on your right. Then you go all the way down to the Gator Pond.
Yeah.
I am not bullshitting you. I've started at Mark Richards pit. 90 minutes later, got to the Gator Pond. The story's not even remotely close to what I heard at Mark Richards pit. So that's what troubles me a little is that,
right.
is is you never know what to believe in the pits either. And I think even that,
Yeah.
So
Okay, so we're done with the tire debacle,
yep.
which is really good. Okay, my God, I told Charlie you were going to be 30 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm
Holy
sorry.
moly,
Charlie, I'm sorry, buddy.
No, that was just, but this is too good because I love dirt racing so much. And the great thing about dirt racing is it's so controversial.
Oh, I know.
It just he slid him. He should go to jail. It's like, calm down.
My sprint car friends tease me too, because obviously High Limit now, a great partnership with Kyle and Brad. High Limits on Flow. They're always like, Jesus, you late model guys, my God, there's something going on every week with you guys.
It's fun. It's like that meme. There's that meme out that I just saw. It says, I don't like drama, but
yeah,
you know,
right.
and all you dirt people that are listening to this, you all know you love you eat it
Right.
up, and y'all give us something to talk about. Okay, so I got two more questions. It's gonna be thoughts on High Limit, and then the controversy that I started, which is funny. Okay, so Brad Sweet on Kenny Conversation last year, I said, why are you starting High Limit? He basically said, we want to give teams more of an opportunity to make a living. We want to, we see what's going on. They're wonderful people. I was just at the High Limit race.
Yeah.
I created controversy by standing right here and saying, hey, I'm going to the High Limit race, while Wes Irwin with the World of Outlaws souvenir trailers right behind me. And I had a very powerful person call me up and go, how in the hell did you pull that off? I'm like, what? Brad Sweet's going to run Eldora? And he going to win? I mean, all the High Limit guys are going to go run Eldora. So what am I missing here?
Right.
Okay, so your thoughts on what Brad and Kyle are doing?
I said last year, and I did my podcast, and I said it was inevitable. And what I mean by that is you have the sport of dirt late model racing growing with 2 or 3 national tours, maybe even some people say 4 national tours, purses exploding, bigger midweek purses, et cetera, et cetera. That's one factor. You have Kyle Larson, who I believe to be the greatest American motorsports talent, if not the greatest global motorsports talent outside of Max Verstappen, maybe, doing this barnstorming tour across America where he's connecting NASCAR and dirt track fans together. And Kyle's this national phenomena of a dirt track racer who happens to be a NASCAR champion. And oh, by the way, Kyle Larson, all he's ever dreamed about his entire life is running. He'll tell you, like, he wanted to have a sprint car tour, right? Like, he loves the Outlaws and always has, but he wanted to have a sprint car tour. So number one, you've got late model purses getting bigger than ever. You've got Kyle Larson's a national phenomena who would love to have his own tour. You've got Brad Sweet, who is, by the way, I don't think I ever gave Brad credit for how smart he is.
Me either. He's smart.
He is a smart MFer. Okay, let me be very clear about that.
Yeah.
And I really, as I was the general manager of FloRacing. I deal with him a ton, getting High Limit, and we're an investor in High Limit and getting them going and talking to Brad regularly. Brad's really smart. Brad's won 5 consecutive World of Outlaw championships. And I think you know this as much as anybody. When you've done something for so long, you kind of want to see what else there is to do, right? So that's a factor. And I think he had a group of outlaw drivers that felt the same way. You throw all of those 3 things in, the big money in late model racing, Kyle's a phenomenon, kind of wants to have his own tour. Brad's done this thing and dominated it. It was inevitable. It was inevitable that there would inevitably be a competitor to the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Tour. And I'm sitting over here in late model world going, shit, we got 4 national tours. What are these people complaining about? Like, who cares? I got competition out my elbows over here, right? So I'm like, what's the big deal? So I think when you factor in all those things, it was simply inevitable, Kenny, that someone was going to do this. And I do know for a fact, Brad was not the only group and people that were considering this. There were other people out there matriculating the idea of starting a national sprint car tour to compete with the World of Outlaws. It just so happened Brad and Kyle were kind of the perfect combo, right? You can use Kyle Larson's celebrity to elevate the tour in the immediate respect that Brad Sweet rightfully commandeers and gets because of his status in the sport. So I think both of them will exist. I think both of them will exist very well. I think big outlaw events are going to be big. I think big high limit events are going to be big. We had a great event at Red Dirt last night. Really good crowd. Big crowd at Texas that you saw, right? Over 6,000 people on the property at Texas Motor Speedway. it's going to be fine. And I just, from a late, and that's my late model perspective, like telling all my sprint car people, guys, it's going to be okay. Just calm down. We're going to get through this, right? And
Yeah.
I think it will be totally fine. And it's exciting for sprint car. Corey Day is becoming a star right before our eyes because he's got a bigger national platform to go compete on and win races now.
Mark Martin said Joey Logano was going to be the next best thing, and he was. And Kyle Larson told me, Corey Day is me.
Yep.
And of course that ricocheted. So two things about high limit. 10,000 to win now is gone. It's 12,000 to win. So they bumped everything up $2,000, which is a lot of money. So that 12,000 must help cover everyday racing. My point is, as a dirt racer myself, it's like, what was the importance of 12,000 versus 10? Besides being more money, that 2,000 must have been important because now I noticed that sprint car racing now everything's 12,000 to win. So I want you to recognize that we all see that.
Yeah. Okay.
10 is over. It's 12. And I see that. I don't know what it means. I'm just saying I see it. That must have been the number. Priority Aviation, Jennifer and Richard Marshall.
Great people. Yeah.
Yeah. They sponsor me. They're wonderful. They got Tyler Courtney Sunshine over here with High Limit. And they got Sheldon Honschild over here with the World of Outlaws. Yeah. So Jennifer was the one screaming for more money, and then the internet beat her up, and so they split them up. And they said, "Okay, both of you go each way." I just thought it was funny as hell. And Jennifer and Richard know how much. Listen, they're so good for the sport.
Yeah.
If Jennifer and Richard were to quit the sport, it would hurt bad because they got a lot of wing, non-wing, midgets, you name it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's end like this. I know that Lucas Oil is on flow. That's my disclaimer. I was kind of having fun. So over the week, Wheatland, Missouri, Lucas Oil Speedway, MLRA, $20,000 to win. The same that Farmer City paid. You had Marlar, you had Thornton, and you had JD.
Yep.
They were there, the Lucas Oil guys.
Yep.
And I said, in a fun way, I said, man, it seems like World of Outlaw late models are stronger this year. And I said that to Nick Hoffman 2 months ago. So I know you're Lucas Oil. I know you're everybody, but de-bullshit that for me. Why 20,000 to win and you're a Lucas Oil guy? Why didn't you go there?
So I think where you got, again, the no bullshit zone, where you got in trouble is this my wife always says to me, honey, where you got in trouble was here. Where you got in trouble was it was not a Lucas Oil race, right? It was an MLRA race. It was a regional race that happened to pay $20,000 to win. So many of the Lucas Oil regulars, like Turbo and those, they didn't even attend Wheatland.
Why?
So I think people thought just on the surface, you were saying, here's an outlaw race, here's a Lucas race, which was not really a Lucas race. And I'm comparing these two head to head. So I followed along the entire Twitter saga all weekend when people are hammering you, like
I love going back to them.
I know you do. And the worst part is they don't realize that you just eat it up and they keep coming right back to you. These were not sanctioned outlaw, sanctioned Lucas. It was only a sanctioned outlaw race. So I think that's where people were like, hey, this isn't exactly a fair comparison because it's not a Lucas Oil big series event. It's simply an MLRA regional event is what people were trying to say to you. So if we're going to compare them, let's compare them in 2 weeks when it's a proper Lucas race, it's a proper outlaw race. Let's stack the rosters up next to each other, and then we'll determine who's stronger. I think that's because there was Lucas guys at Farmer City, right? And those guys, when Lucas has a race, they would not be at an Outlaws race. They would be at a Lucas race. So you will see kind of the proper comparison here in a couple weeks when they're head to head.
So it's not a big thing.
Who cares, right?
But I love calling me out because and I try to explain this to people. I say, look, I say what I'm going to say, and your job is to comment on it. It's called content. It's what we do.
Yeah.
I got to say something, and you got to be mad at me. If you're not mad at I grew up on this. It's AM debate radio. So they fell right into my hands. And I tried to explain to him that they fell right into my hand. Even my buddy Ted Brown. I'm like, Ted, I'm like, so my point would be this. You're saying Turbo is a Lucas Oil guy.
Yeah.
Was it the 6 more hour drive? Why didn't they go to the same? It paid the same.
Yeah. And actually the payout was probably better at the Outlaw race. I think my guess is the top paid the same. I'm getting MLRA purses traditionally through the field are not as good as World of Outlaw purses through the field. I'd have to compare them. I'm going to guess the meat of the Outlaw purse was better than the meat of the MLRA purse at Lucas Oil Speedway. But a lot of factors. Turbo loves Farmer City. He's very good there, right? He's really good there. I think he got second last Saturday night. So that's a factor. Distance closer to Ohio for him. The purse, the starting money, I think was better at Farmer City. For all the reasons you mentioned, there's reasons for those guys to go do that.
I'm thinking to myself, we'll end like this. And on your point, high limit sprint car versus World of Outlaw sprint car. Here you got these Lucas Oil guys that just can't wait to go run this World of Outlaw race because it suits them.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love it that dirt racing is that dynamic and that awesome.
Yeah.
So my friend, listen, we'll end it just like that. You were wonderful. And, I've been bragging on you forever.
Oh, thank you.
And congratulations on being the most influential person in dirt racing history. And listen, everybody, if you want to argue about that, please comment below. And because that will be more content. I say he is because he is the one that put Bloomquist and Moyer on the map. And now the rest of the drivers are reaping the rewards of what that man.
Well,
let me see. Yeah, right there. You did. You did. Remember, we are in podcast form. Please tune in on iTunes and Spotify. This is a long one, so you're going to want to listen to Michael Rigsby on your way to work. You're going to go to work and turn around, turn it right back on. This is a good one. So, Michael, thank you so much for being on Kenny Conversation.
Yeah, Kenny, thank you. Thank you for being so complimentary. And thank you for being, what did I say earlier? Thank you for being so obsessed with this thing. I love it. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. All
right, everybody. We got more in the can. We got Tim McCready coming up. Herman shares his love with everybody. Drag racers, motorcycle. Herman, you know what you should do? What? Respond right below. Tell me the next person we should talk to. But Tim McCready's coming up next. Mark Richards from Rocket Chassis is coming up next. Why do those cars cost so much? All right, until next time.